if that game was anything to go by, this is going to be one to remember. And what a way it would do as well to end up our second day of the group stage. Well, it's not even group stage, it's playoffs now. They'll kind of blur into one, but it's still the same sort of format. And one team of these two has to go home. Here we go then with Coastline. First ban coming through is going to be the Thatcher. We spoke about this all week long, Tim. The go-to ban for a number of attacking teams. And sure enough, it started things out well for DarkZero being taken off the board. Second ban coming in is going to be the Jackal coming out from Furia.
Interesting one. On Coastline, not too much of a surprise. It's going to help the roamers. Jackal able to close them down, obviously, with those frustrating pings that will give away the location. And to be honest, that's sort of the game that I'm expecting from Furia here on Coastline. I'm expecting sort of a get out on the roam, make an absolute nightmare for DarkZero where they just don't know what they're coming around the corner to, and just try to, you know, give them surprise after surprise is kind of what I'm expecting out of Furia here. Get aggressive, get up in their faces, don't let them settle. Mirror and Valkyrie will round out the bans. No surprises there, all pretty standard.
I think that Jackal, to be honest with you, is more of a ban for themselves than it is against DarkZero. DarkZero in the last few months not picking this operator base.
No, that's it, I agree. I think it's just for their own peace of mind that we can just go out on their own and not have to deal with it.
And we had a strange ban earlier on that did exactly the same thing. I forget what the ban was now. Grossly underprepared.
Gorgeous. Bank, yes, of course, Bank.
Furia screened him.
Too late. Furia snapped it up, you know, given what we saw from DarkZero earlier. The fact that DarkZero didn't ban it out was a little bit of a surprise because it didn't go very well for them against Na'Vi, and you'd have really thought they'd have been trying to avoid it.
Alrighty, we are underway with Coastline, then our first map in this series. Furia starting out on the attack, DarkZero on the defense. And as commented before we had that technical pause, Blue Bar and Sunrise going to be where things kick off on the defense, Tim. I'm looking here straight towards DZ and thinking about some of the lessons we've learned over the last couple of days about teams, for example, not bringing a smoke to defend on this site is basically a cardinal sin. You need those smokes to deal with the pool entrance when a plank comes in on towards sofas. So hopefully NJR can persist. Also worth touching on NJR himself, incredible series earlier on today. We had a rehost at one point, he was like 11-2 after a rehost. I think in total he was like 14-6. Really strong performance today so far. And let's not forget, DarkZero coming into this warmed up. They've already played today. Furia are in a pretty commanding spot where they haven't had to deal with that just yet.
Exactly, yeah. They've, as you said, been able to do a little bit more preparation maybe. You know, they'll watch the game earlier, I'm absolutely certain of that, to see who they were going to be up against, but to see what they could pick up on, and they picked up on Bank is the top and bottom of what Furia saw earlier on.
Yep.
Interesting little rappel from Highs here, and this is what I'm talking about, Des, with unpredictability out of Furia that DarkZero are going to have to deal with. Just looking to get himself a little peek in through the speakers there, making every angle as difficult as possible, Furia. They haven't got too aggressive as of yet. Fantasy goes in, and he finds himself snapped shut in a frost trap. Highs, however, is going to be the one to open us up with a kill onto Eclipse, but we have two go back in the direction of DarkZero.
Yeah, two very quickly swinging back the other way. Good start coming out for the side of DarkZero, pushing them back inside the first 60 seconds. And you and I before this game, Tim, was saying you're going to see Furia coming at pace in this game, and that's exactly how they've started in this first round, bringing all the firefights to the side of DarkZero, but they're just throwing it back with a nuke. Canadian finding another in the round as well, a nice headshot coming in from the Frost. A 3 versus 2, and Miracle and Lender, well, they've already got the work cut out for them in round one, Tim.
They really do. They need to find a kill here and try and bring it back to 2v2. It's going to be practically impossible to get the diffuser down in the current situation. Lender, he's just conscious of somebody playing up above. He needs to get himself moving to go down and support his teammate. Otherwise, this is going to be 2 1v1s, or 3v1s rather, and DarkZero will take that all day long. Lender's going to move himself round to the poolside entrance. I think that's the best bet. He needs to get himself involved, and look at that. As soon as he starts turning heads, Miracle manages to remove one with a kill onto Canadian.
Got the vertical on the hatch here, plus the smoke playing in behind the bar. So DZ very much doubling up on the Sunrise hold, not expecting that Furia will rotate off to push in through blue. And quite understandable, I guess. I mean, you've got Miracle, who could open up that office wall, but they're committing everything towards this north side. Burning their way through a laser gate will be a surefire indicator that this is where the push is going to come from. A flash does get through, but a smoke is going to block the way. You're not going to be able to see the side of Furia step forward just yet. And out come the X-Kairos onto this single wall just inside the pool to give them a straight line of access in towards the sofas. They've got to get past, like I say, these smokes. Is a real good one, goes deep, and this is going to force them around the corner. NJR knows that someone's pushing in deep, ducks his head for a couple of seconds. A little bit of damage connecting on towards Lender, but it feels like a pretty tense affair, Tim. Just not quite sure when that big push is going to come in.
NJR with the final Toxic Babe canister. Hyper holding a super long angle here, which isn't going to make life easy for Furia. It's going to be a difficult shot for them to hit him and NJR. Just looking to push forward there. They've got a little bit of access into sight, but not really as much as they might like. And Frostmats win rounds, Des. Frostmats win rounds. And they're going to win round number 1 as Lender goes in, and he can't do anything. I think it was Miracle, actually. Sorry, Lender had already died. Miracle goes in, can't do anything about that, and he's going to feel it. Snapshot, and that's the end of the round. 2 out of 3 hitting their mark in round 1 for those Frost Traps.
Crazy how aggressive that round was as well. I mean, it's Coastline, so you come to expect this level of aggression to some degree, but that was pretty rapid. Penthouse and Theatre, we step up to for round number 2. And on the defensive side, not tons changing. The castle being brought along is a pretty big indicator of what the game plan is going to be, though. Looking to lock off windows, for example, to give the defenders good angles to move down or good corridors to be able to move down, rotating back across site. And I wouldn't be too surprised, Tim, if the majority of Penthouse and Theatre gets opened up, so they've got these lovely long sight lines. There is no mirror on side, so they can't play behind those, which is why everything needs to be opened.
Certainly will. Like you say, we tend to see a lot of those long angles. You'll get, we refer to it as Swiss cheese, just absolutely full of holes in these walls. You can see the rotations already there into VIP. There'll probably be another one.
You know what they call that in Switzerland, by the way?
Just cheese.
Just cheese, mate.
Just cheese, that one. I wonder if it is. Interesting thought. Anyway, carrying. Well, because cheese is quite specific. If you buy cheddar cheese in cheddar, for example.
Is it, what do you call it, just cheese?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's like cheese.
Still cheddar cheese.
Yeah, cheese is quite
It's like if you go down to
specific,
Cornwall in the UK, would you still buy a Cornish pasty or would it just be a pasty?
No, it's Cornish pasty. They call it, yeah. Some things are quite specific like that.
What about like English tea? Because we call it breakfast tea in some places as well. I've never understood all this, to be honest. Tea, I do like tea, but I don't get the 20 different varieties of tea that you can get.
I mean, there's more than that.
Pass.
A lot more than that.
Pass.
Furia, they're not going to want to pass on another round, as they've already let DarkZero have that first one, and they're going to be looking to move in and get some retribution here. It's attacking onto Penthouse. It's been opened up absolutely everywhere. There's angles to every corner of this site, every corner of the top floor of this map coming out from that site, and those work both ways. Something DarkZero need to make sure they remember. That's unfortunate.
It is a little bit. Opened up like Swiss cheese, or if you're in Switzerland, like cheese, you might turn around and say. It does give them those angles in towards the double window. Stops them getting in there. They can play around 90 if they so choose. That's why currently we've got a couple of members of DarkZero dancing around 90. They know that they've got the ability to make use of this corridor because, again, thanks to castle barricades, thanks to what they've got opened up, they can afford to play inside here. The only worry has to be what goes on downstairs. So they'll be relying on the default cam inside a lobby, I imagine, to keep that information flowing. And here comes a tried and tested push through. They want to get their way inside of VIP, and rather than actually opening it up to be able to step inside, they're just opening up a number of, well, double, I guess, X-Kairos pellet holes. That's more to give you the sight lines in, as you're seeing being used here. They may well turn around and open one up eventually. They can get through, and that's going to go in this bottom corner. There we go. Miracle expending all of them to get that opened up, and they'll be able to step through into VIP.
Really wanting to get control of it. Heise is going to get on the double window as well. Once you've got VIP and double window, you're pretty much in control of Penthouse then, but there's going to be a lot of work needs doing before that can happen. Nades start raining out. Not going to be successful in finding any damage onto anybody, but they will clear out a Goyo shield. Rare manages to find Canadian, and that means the Furia push is underway. Fantasy not going into a Frostmat this time. Instead, he's going to find a headshot. Miracle onto Pamber, and it's all starting to fall apart.
Very quickly, NJR's down to about 30 HP. Plan coming in from Miracle. Fantasy finally put on his backside, but they're not going to worry too much about that because the time that he was exerting, the pressure that he was giving to the last two members of DarkZero means that plan goes down successfully, and this is going to be so difficult to retake. It always is. Eclipse finding at least one back, but you've got to deal with a window, potentially two window players at this point, and one that could drop in at a moment's notice. Miracle picking up NJR. Eclipse left in a big clutch situation. Got to find himself three. Got to spray through the sofa and find himself another. It's going to be ace or bust for Eclipse. He's got to kill every single one, but the difficulty is they're on windows, they're on hatches. Heise from on high finds the closing kill. Second round going the way of Furia.
Always going to be a tough one for Furia. Sorry, for DZ there. Once they'd got that plant down, You had, like you say, man on the window. He was actually just inside of it because he'd repelled in, but you had the hatch covered. They knew where you were coming from. There was just too much stacked against them. So Furia with a successful first attack, and it was a nice one. Push into VIP, push double window, find a couple of kills, and in you go. It was as simple as that. It doesn't get much more straightforward inside of Siege. We're going to be coming into round 3 at even Stevens at the minute. 1-1 on the scoreboard, and it's going to be Hooker and Billiards.
Tim, look what they're picking. That is going to sound well dodged on a microphone, by the way. They're picking up the Osa more than anything else I'm excited about. DarkZero are a team that have employed Osa on this map throughout the competition. We've used it to push through Aqua. We've seen it pushed in through Service entrance. Now, it's Furia having a good swing of the bat and bringing it along with the Flores, as you mentioned. The Flores, I think, to me, is more of a reaction to seeing the Goyo picked up, and they assume DarkZero will take it a little more often. Best way to get rid of those shields, if you aren't seeing Mute Mozzie being brought every single round, is always going to be those Retero drones. I quite like how it's added a second option, because in a way it does stop Wamai and Jaeger being the must-pick operators in the current meta that we're in, right? You have to bring along the Reteros in case where there are too many of those. If they don't bring along any Mutes or Mozzies, for example, well, those Reteros are going to be able to fly through and pick up some things for free. That's exactly what they're looking for in this round, namely the shield coming out of NJR. That is going to be the #1 focus. And the bulletproofs. Well, bulletproof single.
Bulletproof single, which is just over to the left-hand side of the rotate from Billiards to Hooker, and it's going to look out towards Aquarium to try and feed information on anybody coming in for a potential plant. Now, Fantasy moving like lightning here. Already inside of the map on the Iana. He's on the hunt. Does he know that there's one inside a bathroom? He's moved his way through security. I don't think he does this, because he's going to head straight upstairs, straight into luggage. He's looking to claim Aquarium for them, but he's obviously going to have to be very aware of the potential for a flank. Looks like he does a 180. And he's just come back to support highs in this push of theatre, but that's unreal. He takes out the default cam first, which lets Eclipse know that he's coming, but somehow Fantasy manages to just wheel around and find the man inside of theatre, and that starts giving a little bit of map control over to Furia.
Just a great read, I think, by Fantasy, if nothing else, right? Was probably waiting for that camera to turn and flash blue, which means someone's looking at him, then shoots it out. It's why he didn't pull the trigger as soon as he got at the top of White Stairs, but a great flick across to bring down Eclipse, who was sat inside of theatre. 5 versus 4 for Furia. Still tons of time to work with here, Tim. What makes me a bit nervous for the side of DarkZero is the utility. There's 4 nades to come through. There's 4 flashbangs remaining that they can use to burn through any of those Wamai magnets that are scattered around the map, and they've still got to deal with an Osa. 5 versus 3 as Highs gets yet another.
I did say coming into this that I thought Furia would play an aggressive style and get up in the face of DarkZero, and I was a little bit concerned about exactly how the North American side were going to handle that sort of pressure. And right now, Des, they're not handling it very well, because Furia are having the run of things here. Also, Shield is going to be deployed in 2 directions. That's going to allow them not only to cover the plant, but also to cover the potential flank. It's a flawless round. They don't need to get the case down. And DarkZero really on the back foot there in Hooker and Billiards. Yeah, they're being absolutely ravaged here so far, Tim. It is not looking pretty. And that was even really without the Osa doing a ton of work. They were just like, hey, freebie, 5 for us. Highs, 2 in the mid-round as well. Just not really stacking up any level of competition so far. I'll give a lean to DarkZero. And I've been saying this a lot today to a number of people. It's a tale of 2 halves. Wait until we see what happens in the second before we draw any big, strong assessments. Sometimes it will carry on and Furia will just steamroll over DarkZero, but let's not forget that DarkZero lost bank in their series earlier on against Na'Vi 7-2. That was the first map, and then they came back. And I caught up with Canadian earlier on. We were both going to the restroom, and I asked him, what happened on bank? And he just said, we just weren't awake, to be honest with you. First game of the day, we weren't properly ready for it. We then got our stuff together ready for maps 2 and 3. We've said already that they've had chance to play a series today, so they should be a bit more turned on than they were earlier on. So far, a little bit slow, but again, I will wait for round 7 to 12, assuming we see all the way up to 12. Let's see how double bar goes down, though, Tim. So far, it's avoiding stepping inside a kitchen, which is quite curious. That normally is the go-to site for many a team. Perhaps they're fearful of the Osa and the damage that it can do. We saw it used by DarkZero before, so they, more than anyone, should know what it can achieve. They should. I think Osa's in an interesting place. We've not seen too much of it yet, so I think there's a bit of development to do around the operator. In theory, it should be reasonably easily dealt with. You bring along some impact nades, you bring along a nitro, you deal with the shields. But it's not always that straightforward, because we look at the defenders and every bit of utility is always accounted for. Do you know what I mean, Des? Yeah. It's like you're bringing along, if anything, they'd bring more utility if they could. You know, they want that entrance covered, they want barbed wire there, they need a shield on that angle, they need a bulletproof camera there. And so it's not always easy to actually dedicate those slots to bring in enough explosives to be able to deal with it. So it's quite an interesting one, really. You've got to have that little bit of counterplay outside of the game to think, are they going to bring it? Are they not going to bring it? How are we going to handle it?
I mean, what, they've got 4 frags on side, they've got 2 smokes in back pocket. They've chewed through a lot of these flashes from Miracle already in trying to clear out the utility inside of the site itself. Canadian, forced away from the back of his shield, has now got to take a slightly more defensive position. Just tucking himself in behind the bar at this point. That's a bit of a kicker. Imagine rappelling up and just not having any expectation someone's going to be stood there. It's like Chucky being at your window on Halloween. It's just one of the worst things you can imagine, Tim.
Honestly, it needs to happen. What I like from DarkZero there is, that is a message to me that, right, you want to play aggressive, we're going to fight fire with fire. We're going to come right up to those windows, we're going to have a look, we're going to surprise you, and that is what it needs. That's what will put the brakes on Furia if they think that they're going to suffer to it as well. For the time being, they're trying to push Hyper and will push Hyper out of Hooker. They decided that they didn't want to have to deal with those vertical challenges. Rare gets inside and makes sure that's the case. He can actually start using them in reverse now, so just need to be careful about exactly where they leave themselves. I think he knows that Hyper's underneath him, but they're both sort of doing a little bit of a merry dance around each other at the minute, trying to find anything, won't get a sniff, and now he's going to be able to potentially push down the Cool Vibes stairs.
By my measure, that was the first opening kill for DarkZero on this map as well. 3 in a row for the side of Furia, the last one, of course, being a straight flawless as well, not giving a single one back. The round prior, they found 3 in a row. So they've warmed into the game across the 3 rounds. This is the first time they've been given a little bit of an impediment by DarkZero, something to consider and think about and potentially pause. Hyper finding a second in the round, really starting to deepen the woes for Furia in this round, taking Fantasy, the go-to star player for this team, off the board.
The problem here is, Des, the Ossa shield is down, it's established, and there's no explosives to deal with it. Toxic Babe canister goes out too late, Diffuser is planted. How do they deal with this now? 2 versus 2 as Highs manages to mop up 2 on the top floor. Rare's looking for the vertical, and it's going to be very difficult. I mean, there is a world where DarkZero could potentially use that shield to their advantage to protect them whilst disabling the Diffuser. It works both ways, but it's not going to be easy for them to get into position. NJR finds Rare, Pamber and NJR, they have it to do, and he's going to use that shield. Highs is looking for the angle here. I'm not sure he's going to be able to find it, and if the hatch drop is covered, which it is, DarkZero with a beautiful retake there. Well played from them.
Really well done, absolutely. Yes, slightly using the Ossa shield against them, but had the laser gate on side as well. Plenty to protect them. No one on the outside from Furia to attack in from the pool entrance side. It's good that they're getting themselves back into things now, because that leaves us at 2 apiece as well. It's not quite an absolute rollover for the side of Furia, and instead it might just take a little bit of warming into things. That's their second round on the defense here on Coastline. Now we finally step across to the, I guess for DarkZero, what they would probably describe as the offsite, given we haven't seen it yet out of the 4-site rotation we've been through. It's going to be Kitchen and Service in round number 5.
Interesting that they've left this site to the end. We tend to see Kitchen Service a lot more.
It's the opener, really.
Yeah, generally speaking, it tends to be a primary site at the minute, but they're going to do 4 rounds before they even try to see if they can get it over the line, to see if they can get another round on the board. Maybe they've been saving it for when they felt they really needed it, but it means they're only going to get to play it once in their rotation now if they win it. So, you know, if you do win it, you might have thought, oh, we could have had 2 rounds out of that potentially. DarkZero, I'm sure, have got a plan in mind, though. They have this time brought along impact nades. We've got 4 on side, so they might just be thinking towards needing to deal with an Ossa here. They don't have one on side, so it's not the end of the world, but that could just be Furia playing into it a little bit and just controlling some of the utility that's getting brought along.
A little bit of a merry dance around, isn't it? You know, so the Flores coming out earlier, expecting to see a Goyo. There was no Goyo. This round, you're seeing that adaptation coming in. Just the kind of teams doing a dance around each other, not just around hatches like we saw in the last round, but also in terms of the operators they're bringing along into each round. On the downstairs, once again, we've You've got Fantasy pushing in very aggressive. And Tim, this is something I commended Furia for in their game against TSM. They're not a slow team. They won't sit there and drone something out for 2 minutes before making a move. They're willing to take the risk versus reward moments where they'll say, look, let's push in quite aggressively. We've done a bit of droning in the pre... a good bit of teamwork coming in there as Highs finishes off the damage that came in primarily from Fantasy with the nade before getting traded out. That risk versus reward gameplay I spoke about, you're seeing it come through there in spades because Eclipse, clearly undrone inside of security, finds one back.
Exactly that, and that's what you get sometimes when you're trying to move as quickly and as aggressively as Furia right now. Things will get missed as, and DarkZero can sort of steer into that skid and try to take advantage of exactly that. Now then, they're going to be moving in and getting top floor control. Hyper is currently positioned on those Cool Vibe stairs, so he could come up and run a little bit of a mock here if given the opportunity, but I think that Furia will likely have that angle covered and locked down. Very aware of the rest of the top floor as well. They certainly don't want to be giving themselves over to any nasty little flanks here. Eclipse is just going to take a little pot shot up through the ceiling. He's not going to get any joy, but you never know.
You never know, Tim. You truly don't know. Halfway into the round then, and with Fantasy off the board, you can see where the pace has sort of slowed down a little bit here, Tim. That kind of burst of aggression in the early round is now fell by the wayside as we settle into a much more standard level of round, where it's all about the drone work. And Hyper, not too sure about that one, Chief. Miracle, also clearly not too sure. NJR, I thought for a second there, might find himself losing out. He's going to cover this diffuser in a cloud of gas just to try and burn through the clock a little bit more. Highs trying to nade him out, puts him down to about half HP, sends him running for the hills. So a little bit of an exchange there in the mid-round, Tim, and things go back to being slow once again. 3
versus 3, nice and level coming into the final minute. Diffuser recovered by Lender. He's able to start thinking about pushing into service, but he's going to need some support before he does. Highs is up above and can try to use those vertical angles, and Rare's looking to move in. He's going to get caught out here. No, how does he hit that shot, Canadian? Had every advantage there. Saw the man coming, knew exactly where he was and started shooting first, but somehow Rare finds a headshot. Eclipse, this is just one absolute killer after another. Eclipse across the main courtyard finds Rare with a headshot. 2v2. Furia still trying to get deep enough into sight to put the diffuser down.
They've matched each other blow for blow though, Tim, as you say, down to a 2 versus 2 with about 20 seconds to play. The challenge coming in from courtyard, going to be a bit of a stinger. This is where they've got to make a move, but Hyde, he wins the reverse challenge coming out from NJR. Plants going down from Lender as he's tucked himself into the corner of kitchen. Eclipse has got to try retake in through bathroom, finds the one man, down goes the defuse, sees the gun as well. Can he clip it out here? A 3k in the round, a 1 versus 1, but she wins into a quad kill in the round. It's going to stick the disable. DarkZero go to 3 and 2.
My, it's going to be one of those nights, Des. What a performance in that round from Eclipse. He's just gone Kansan.
I've been waiting for that to come out. Beautiful.
We said we were going to try and bring it.
We did. For those who missed it earlier on, I think it was Lycan of SSG who joked about it on Twitter, said, I've already started saying, I was going to go Kansan here far too much.
I think the players would probably prefer us to say he's just gone Eclipse there. Which he really did. I mean, that was a great clutch from him. There was a couple of things that happened in there. Lender did everything right. Watch him throw the nade out now. See the nade? So that's to stop him pushing in through the door. Lender should have known then that the challenge is only going to come from the rotate, but still Eclipse manages to peek around and get the headshot onto it. It was absolutely beautiful from Eclipse. Perfectly played.
Got to match fire with fire, play aggressive at the right time. Exactly what he did. Gets a critical round for DarkZero as we go back into Penthouse and Theatre. We saw this earlier on in round 2. Furia did come out on top with 2 members still remaining. If you recall, they did get the plant down there as well, Tim. So it's all about seeing what can change in this round for DarkZero. They're the ones who have got to make changes, who've got to buck up their ideas and do something a little bit different.
They do. They've had 3 plants so far, Furia, but only 2 rounds on the board. And it's because DarkZero have been playing pretty well in the retake. 2 of those rounds have been retaken. 3 plants and only 1 round has come from that for Furia. So as much as the aggression is working, it's getting them into sight. I feel like DarkZero are sort of almost allowing them to aggress into sight. They're like, yep, okay, put your diffuser. Yeah, we've got the retake. And they're sort of comfortable in that. The positioning has been good. Fair enough, Eclipse on a 1v2 in the last one. I'm surprised that he wasn't covered off when he came into service. He got an absolute freebie on the man by kitchen window. Considering he'd already been challenged from courtyard and a further challenge didn't come, you've got to expect that Eclipse has maybe relocated.
Some sites on this map do really lean in towards retakes, right? Thinking about Kitchen, especially Fantasy, a big opener on towards Hyper. I think almost found Eclipse, or maybe that was High, sorry. Almost getting the second one back on the other side. Would have been a dream opener for Furia. For now, they'll have to settle with just one, but yeah, that retake point, I always use Kitchen Service as a great example. When you lose vertical control, defenders tend to step off site and then push back in later on once the execute begins. And this map can lean into that kind of playstyle. Equally, it can be an absolute nightmare because of the proximity of things like windows and external facing doorways. Defenders or attackers, sorry, can just get really far outside and look to challenge from a distance. NJR, one back the other way. So once again, Tim, at that 2-minute mark, we're in a 4 versus 4. It's so weird how that keeps happening.
Really is, isn't it? Pamber manages to find one onto Rare. 4 versus 3 now. 3 versus... No! Eclipse manages to get the kill. I thought Fantasy might win that one out, but absolutely not. It's going to be 4 versus 2. And Furia, they're staring down the barrel of a 2-4-1/2 on the scoreboard here on the attack of Coastline. You'd have really hoped, if you're a Furia fan, that they might have picked up a little bit more. They've brought the aggression, they've brought a bit of flair, but it's just not really getting them anywhere at the minute. DarkZero are looking, honestly, Des, possibly the most solid that I've seen so far at this tournament.
I'll go far as agreeing with you on that one. Yeah, they've been a bit up and down.
This is up there. It's up there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I almost go as far as saying again, the TSM game, although they lost it, was a really good game. They were very competitive throughout. It was really enthralling to watch, especially when you had the M&M Empire game in the morning that turned into a bit of a who's got the more competent individual fraggers. It was very team-based when it came round to that fixture. We know DarkZero have got it inside them. The problem is now you're hitting that stage in the tournament where consistency is everything. You've got to give performances day after day. You can't use the excuse, oh, we just had a bad map, because that bad map can cost you an entire series.
Send you home, and this is turning into a bad map for Furia. They've been completely unable to get a hold of VIP. Pamber with another coming back. They know all about coming back against North American teams, Des. If you remember, we saw it. We saw it firsthand against SSG. It really did give them nightmares after that one, I think. But DarkZero, they've got themselves a nice foundation. They're looking good. They look confident. They just need to carry that through to the attack now and start finding those entry kills, because they've been playing a lot of these rounds from behind.
They are playing this round with 6 frags on side. Absolutely brilliant what they're looking to do here, because it's going to be incredibly explosive, likely coming in from below, or just through the windows in towards the site. Of course, you've got to be careful of the Jaeger. There is no Wamai on side, which we saw in the first half. You know, DarkZero were bringing along the Wamai, much more preferred over bringing along the Jaeger. Those discs, of course, you get far more of them than you do ADSs, albeit ADSs can recharge, so hey. The other side to look at, of course, is Highs, who's been 9-4 so far. Top fragging for the side of Furia has now been put on clash duty. So your top guy who's doing all the gunning is being put onto a much more passive role here. Not 100% sure how I feel about that in general. Of course, we'll see if it works out. The one thing you're looking for in this round really is going to be the clock. DarkZero need to be quite pacey, otherwise that clash only gets stronger the longer the round goes on.
Hyper wasting a bunch of time with his drone there, just zipping back and forward under the sofa. He knew he was going to lose it, but if you can waste 5 to 10 seconds of the prep phase, why not? It might just give you an opportunity to catch somebody out when they're a little bit behind on that setup. Hyper watching that double window, very conscious of the potential for jump outs and peaks coming out of Furia, given the aggressive nature that we've seen them play with so far. It wouldn't be too much of a surprise, but all of DarkZero safely to where they want to be pretty much, which is largely up on the rooftop. They're going to be opening the hatch, looking for the penthouse theatre drop, just to basically to pressure directly onto site. Eclipse is going to take Fantasy out with a beautiful nade there. So they've got the hatch, they've got Fantasy taken down. DarkZero are looking pretty good here, but they need to start thinking a little bit further away from site. As I said, going through to the hatch, absolutely fine. Pressure immediately onto site, but they need to clear out VIP, and it looks like that's the job that's underway.
Absolutely. No, it needs to maybe come through first, or to have these Roteros come singing through, which is exactly what Canadian's job is going to be. Looking for whatever utility you can find here. Has already found the bulletproof, which shall go very, very easily. Of course, worth noting that with those EMPs, you can't, well, with the EMPs, with the bulletproofs, you can EMP blast a drone as it comes towards you, but the smart thing being done there was to get it underneath the sofa. Bulletproof gone, now the shield's gone. So they are slowly destroying this theatre hold that Furia could be employing here, and just forcing them deeper and deeper into the sites, which gives more room to think about and execute.
Drone training in, and we've got DarkZero underneath with the Finker and the sledge. Wonder what they're doing under
there.
I
do wonder, Tim. You know, I can't imagine they must have some really good ideas here on what they can do with utility,
maybe something
right?
new, something that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if Furia can figure out what they're trying to do underneath there, and maybe they'll go and try and do something about it. Who knows? Lender's having a look through the floor there, see if he can find anything. Can't see his man. NJR's going to dip away, still 2 nades in hand, so he's not going to take those chances just yet. Lender does take a ton of damage though, and that was Hyper with a nade from underneath. Who'd have expected it, Des?
Yeah, Jesus, super weird that, Tim. Really, really strange. I mean, at this point, Rare's kind of acknowledged, okay, we are getting naded from below here. We need to have some downstairs control. NJR's almost trying to bait it out. Look, they know that he's there. He's being yellow pinged on his journey through the map. So all it's going to take is someone to catch up behind him and get him shut out of the round. Eclipse goes down, but look at that back and forth. Pamber does collect Rare, but my God, it's turned into a slaughter for DarkZero as the kill feed turns orange. Miracle left in a 1 versus 4. And Tim, we came in a little bit worried about what we'd see from DarkZero. All we're seeing so far is total domination.
Well, that's it. I was concerned about how they were going to deal with the aggressive nature of a team like Fury that got right up in their faces. But I think the game earlier has actually worked wonders for DarkZero, because against Na'Vi we saw Pamber, we saw Hyper, we saw them really growing into the game and getting more and more kills. NJR after that rehost, if you remember, like 11 kills between then and I think it was 11 between then and the end of the round. You know, the end of the game, sorry, it was brilliant from them, and the fact that they've had that game where they've been able to go in and start finding the shots is fantastic for them. And it's really paying dividends here, because they're just winning gunfight after gunfight. It's just, look at the consistency across 9-6-5. You know, you've got 20 kills there between your top 3 players. They're absolutely flying at the minute.
And despite High's effort on the other side, it's just simply...
You've got Lender on 0.
And Fantasy on 3.
It's a problem. You know, they're not keeping up in the gunfights. I'm not singling anybody out, but Furia, whilst bringing that aggression, they're not getting anything out of it. And DarkZero have just absorbed it brilliantly on defence, and now they're flipping it on its head and saying, right, there's some of it back.
And Lender, sorry, had a phenomenal game on Cafe, if you recall, against TSM. You know, lights out performance, really putting up big numbers. So far, quiet. However, the one thing I'll give to Furia again is, just like DarkZero said, map 1 can be a bit of a snoozer at points. I guess the nice thing in their favour here is this wasn't their map pick. They did choose map number 2 to go into Banks. For DarkZero, they should be feeling comfortable on a map like this. High's looking to keep himself cheeky out towards the front door here, down towards lobby. Hoping someone runs in front of his line of sight, but DarkZero, they're a little bit too wise to get caught out by that one, and nothing will come of it.
Just going to keep having a look, but as you say, he's not going to get any joy there, especially not once they've heard the barricade knocked or the window glass smashed. They're not going to have any part of that one. DarkZero, they're not going to be looking for any challenge. Look at that, absolutely free. Pamber drops in the Twitch drone onto the little ledge, manages to clear out a lot of the utility at the top of Cool Vibes, and that is going to make life any easier for Furia on the defence here, because they've just lost a ton of utility there, including mute jammers, which is going to potentially allow the wall to be opened up. It's going to potentially allow drones to get in and out of there. It just makes a little bit of a nightmare for them. The Retero drone being able to serve both of those functions, of course.
Absolutely. Looking out here towards the hookah balcony is their sort of starting point. There are 2 of them out here for the side of DarkZero. We've also got Canadian doing his usual business here, dropping these Flores drones in, trying to see what he can find. He's going to get that one shot out. I was going to say the man was staring straight at it. Absolutely no issue at all.
Still 5v5, nearly halfway through the round. DarkZero have been unable to find a starter just yet. They're trying to get inside of the map. Eclipse is working on that hooker balcony. It's sort of a two-phase approach here. They're sending a few directly to site, try and pressure and look like they're moving in there, and then try and do some other stuff in the background, from luggage, from aquarium, to try and get these Reteros in and soften up the south side of the site. But Furia are looking pretty solid at the minute. They're not being pushed around. They're happy playing where they're playing, and DarkZero not really able to disrupt them as of yet.
Canadian's dying to get rid of that bulletproof that sat inside the single wall that sits between the 2 sites. As of yet, unable to do so. Still there to slightly tuck down, as you can see. And every single time he's at a triangle, there's always someone there just ready to shoot it out and deal with it. Pamber droning out underneath to make sure no one is lurking around. NJR, though, first of all, Lender with his first kill on the board in the game, Tim.
An important one that it is at that, managing to get themselves a little bit of an advantage. Kills going in either direction, but it's that man again. Eclipse managing to lock one down, 3v2, but he's got himself cornered here. Gets another. Eclipse is going absolutely huge on this game so far. 11 and 5, and you just feel like there's there's more to come from him yet. He's going to watch Cool Vibe stairs, but that's not really where the pressure is going to come from. They need to get something going here, DarkZero. 25 seconds. Eclipse has diffuser in hand, so has an opportunity. Surely you know he's on the rotate.
I was about to say.
He saw the bullets, but didn't react to them. Pamber gets one. Can he get two? He knows the man's behind there. He doesn't have the case in hand, so he can try and get it.
Oh!
I thought he found it, Des. I thought he found it. I thought he threaded the needle then, but no. Fantasy, he reacts quickest, and Furia managed to take their first defense.
Got him gassed up as well. Look at it. Love it.
It doesn't take much for Furia. That's the thing.
It's
That's
Twister.
why they're dangerous.
It's just Twister through and through. He's just so keen to keep that energy high, right? And we spoke about this with DarkZero earlier on in their game against Na'Vi. Even when they won, very reserved, quite low energy, quite chilled out overall. You'll see more of that. Huh?
Unusual for them.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a rivalry thing for DarkZero. Like Canadian, you know what he's like when he plays against
I was going to say
TSM.
unusual for any side with Canadian on it.
Yeah. To be fair, I think out of the non-Latam teams, because they are in a class of their own when it comes to this, the noise being made by the teams has primarily come from SSG and DarkZero.
Yes.
They've been the noisy boys here. And while the halls may fall very silent from any non-Latam teams, if DarkZero can't take away this series, they are up 5-3, so it's not looking too bad for them right now. So we head down into Blue Bar and Sunrise with Furia on the defense. Things have been looking a little bit close the last couple of rounds. Yes, they took away that last one, but it came down onto a dime. It was a 1 versus 1. The 2 rounds prior to that, round 6 and round 7, very, very dominant in the favor of DarkZero. So although they've got 1 round on the board, I'm not convinced we're yet going to see Furia fully fight back into this game.
No. I think DarkZero have definitely been the better of the two teams here on Coastline so far. They've had the run of things. They've got a couple of big performers coming out as well, particularly Eclipse. Not often you see the man carrying the briefcase also sitting on 11 kills.
I see it all the time when we stat together.
Oh, well, obviously, of course. You know, I'm talking about a more general audience, Des.
I wasn't about you. I wasn't about Fresh when you die and he picks up the
fantastic,
case.
Brilliant, thank you. Got him.
Got him.
We're going to have the repel onto Sunrise. It's all too easy for Fantasy, but he can't hit his shots there. Hyper just managing to get himself away. He was obviously aware that maybe the peak was going to come because he reacted extremely quickly to that one. And it's going to just mean that he doesn't lose too much. Uses some of those nanobots just to juice up, so he's back up to about 75 health there and keeps himself in the round.
Absolutely. Here comes that step forward. Fantasy getting into a little bit of a hairy engagement early in the round. Pamber doing quite a bit of damage to him. And off he goes towards the high wind, scattered out towards site. Once again, going to work his way down towards Hookah and Bilious. So rejoin up with Rare, who's also holding out on that side of the map. Miracle on site, and then it's Highs and Lender, the ones looking to cause trouble out towards the east.
Great work from the Oryx of Fantasy there. He's been very mobile around the map. He's going to take out a Rotero drone with him now as well. And he's making life difficult for DarkZero at every turn. They try and get in the map. They try and get on a balcony. They try and get utility in. And he's not having any of it at all. Hyper, he's looking to hunt down the roamer who is underneath. It's going to be Lender playing down there at the bottom of the white stairs. Of course, DarkZero attacking onto Sunrise here, Des. And they're playing this as a more of a whole map sort of game.
That was a little bit cheeky there with that drop coming in from Rare. Thought he might lose his head as they did see it for a brief second. But elsewhere, it's Miracle falling down. The smoke taken off the board, Tim. That's a real stinger for this site. I'm always talking about the requirement for a smoke to be alive, to smoke off sofas when a plant comes in. Now that he's gone, they don't really have a lot to go on outside of the C4 coming out of Lender, or of course those trusty guns in their hands. Out comes Rare, gets a kill onto Eclipse. That hero for DZ taken out of the round.
That's what Furia, it feels like they need is, you know, we saw DarkZero doing it with Hyper right up at the window in their faces, trying to match that aggression, and it's just tempered Furia a little bit. So the run out from Rare is, you know, maybe the catalyst, maybe the spark that'll just fire the rest of the team up and get them going, but it hasn't been successful yet. 4-3 in favour of DarkZero, 4-2 now as NJR finds Fantasy, and it's all going from bad to worse for the Brazilians here. The vertical angle's getting opened up. NJR just hunting for kills left, right, centre. Highs manages to find Hyper, and we find ourselves now 3 versus 2, 30 seconds left to go, and we've got utility being dumped into site. DarkZero feel like they're in a position to start thinking about getting a plant down here. They've got Canadian inside of site, but NJR had to go and recover that diffuser. Pamber, however, manages to find highs. 14 seconds left to go. Can NJR get back in time? Yes, he certainly can. He's going to be putting that case down on the ground, and it's all up to Lender. One kill is going to have to become 4 Des, and it can't even become 2 as Pamberzoo shuts him down, and that's going to be DarkZero getting themselves onto map point on Coastline.
Like I say, Tim, when they win DarkZero, it has generally been very dominant. The one round that we've seen Furia win in this half has been with 1 man left alive, stuck in a 1 versus 1. It doesn't feel as close as maybe that one round suggests, because DarkZero are indeed running away with this. Furia stepping back once again to Penthouse and Theatre. It's where we played in round 7, and things didn't look so peachy for them then. DarkZero ending that round with 4 men still left alive. Just feels like they haven't really got an answer, even with the clash of highs being present last time around. It just didn't work out for them.
No, it didn't really have any impact on the round. It was Penthouse, it was their first defence, and they lost it. He just couldn't really get himself into the game. DarkZero dealt with it very, very well, and I'm sure that they're going to probably be doing the same again, except it's been swapped out. He's gone for the 6th pick. He's going to bring along the Echo instead. It's going to be Yokai drones instead of a shield to try and bring that frustration.
Okay. I really want to say, like, straight away, it doesn't feel like that's being picked for the late round. It's not being picked for the executes, because DarkZero, I'd say relatively regularly, aren't leaving it until the last 5 seconds or so to try and stick a plant. There's a bit more time being left there to give themselves some wiggle room, which makes me think those Yokais are going to be used in the more active way we've seen a number of Echo players doing. That is, you hop on the Yokai, you play a little bit of robot wars with the enemy drones, you get it out in the map, you feed information back to your roamers, and you look to get yourself nice and busy. So for Highs, he wants to dig himself away on site somewhere safe where he won't find himself getting picked out, and try and keep himself generally into a bit of a busybody. Here, at least, for the side of DarkZero, they're starting most of them out towards this front side. They're going to work their way across, get up on the roof, smash the hatch out, all the good stuff you come to expect, and likely try and look for some good control inside of VIP.
The Oryx just climbing up the hatch there. The quickest way to go if you want to change floors. Fantasy just heading up to the top. Going to be getting himself into Hooker before pushing forward and getting himself around the map. He showed a great capacity for it last time around in the last round. Really made a nuisance of himself, but it still wasn't enough for Furia. You may want to drop underneath. We know that DarkZero are likely to try and use some of those nades. They've got quite a few on side, 6 in total, and we know they like to get underneath and try to light up the feet of the defenders inside a site, and they've had a lot of success with it.
We already saw that in an earlier round as well. 2 of them playing on the downstairs for a short time before they moved away. And very cleverly read into Rare, who was trying to flank them, if you remember, Tim. He came down through kitchen and he was being yellow pinged the whole way through. They just knew what was coming. Pamber, with a well-tucked-in drone, is going to keep a very close eye on Fantasy. It's kind of surprised they can't see it, but I think because it's sat in the sort of debris of a smashed vase, it's just very hard to identify.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Miracle, he's on the Cool Vibe stairs. He's looking for anybody coming in on the entry on that side of map, but it's not happening at the minute. The Roteros are going in, looking to clear lines of sight and utility for Canadian. NJR takes them one step towards the finish line here as he gets a kill. Traded out by Fantasy, traded out by Pamber. It just continues, 1 for 1 for 1. 4 versus 3 now. DarkZero got themselves an advantage. Highs, he's trying to hold on to VIP still, and whilst he's in there, that is at least a point to the credit for Furia. They're not likely to be pushed from both sides, but they have lost Hall of Fame, and pressure can mount on the Echo. If he's not careful, he might just overextend here.
Opening up that soft wall will give them a nice angle straight through into Theatre, so whoever's sat inside there will not be able to cover against the push that's about to come. I don't think on the side of DarkZero they've currently got anyone looking to play on big window. All 3 of them are just looking to come pushing in through Hall of Fame. There's one pushing on towards 90 to give a challenge down here. Hyper already going to lose his life. One goes deep though, and they might be able to get a plant stuck down here as Pamber finds yet another. He's on a death march here, works his way through 3. DarkZero are going to take map number 1, 7 and 3, and Furia have got some work to do.
Fantastic work from Pamber there. It was just a great triple at the end to be able to really power them over the line. I thought for a second when the Echo got on the flank, I don't really know how that happens. I'd have thought there should have been a